Good evening, televiewers. You welcome to another edition of Prime on my media. Prime, an edition that is still going to be looking at a plain prolongation after the announcement by Canada's foreign minister the possibility for talks to start between the government and separatist groups out there in Canada. An information that was quickly, or 3 days after, disavowed by the Minister of Communication for Cameroon, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, leaving many persons to be asking questions as to what went right or wrong with respect to the possibility for peace talks to be engaged between Cameroon government and the fighters out there. But what we are looking at also is what Cameroonians, especially Anglophones living in the southwest and northwest regions, we have done a survey, and majority of them say they want peace and are asking the question as to what happens after the press release that was issued by the Minister of Communication on behalf of the Cameroon government, saying that no entity, no instance, no organization or government has been mandated to engage talks on behalf of Cameroon. So we're going to be finding out what, accordingly to our guest in the program, should be the best way forward. Apostle Ambe Valentine is our consultant. He is in the studio with me this evening to look into the expectations of Cameroonians, the population of the southwest and northwest in particular. Good evening, Apostle. We are glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroonians. Good evening, viewers of Prime Hour. We are happy to be here today again. Happy New Year to everyone watching this program. It's a joy to be here to dissect and actually analyze the issue of the dissonance of the government or Minister of Communication against the Canadian-led dialogue that was supposed to start, or normally they had pre-talks before this period, but we are yet to get actual knowledge of what has happened recently before the Minister of Communication came up to debunk the idea that they were not into any pre-talks and they were not engaged into any dialogue, or they were not prepared to negotiate anything with the separatists.
You're just coming back from Nigeria, Abuja precisely.
Yes.
How is the fever that has gripped the nation, the elections fever?
It's very, very hot over there, Mr. Leo. The campaigns, I mean, what we see on social media, what we see on television is quite different from what is on ground, because the elections in Africa is not actually what we see on television. Most of us and many people will be taken by surprise by what's going to happen in Nigeria this time around, because most of us already have our winner on social media, but that is not the case with what is on ground. Most of the persons supporting the person they expect to win have never even gotten their PVCs, as personal voters cards, to stand and vote. It is the number of people who vote for an individual that makes him win the elections, not the number of people who speak for the person. We have so many people who are celebrating candidates on television, social media, who do not even have PVCs to vote them. I think we need to develop the attitude to register for those who want to vote for, rather than speaking and singing their hosannas on different television platforms and social media platforms. So the drama over there in Nigeria on ground is different from what we are seeing on television, and many people will be taken by surprise.
Many persons are going to be taken by a surprise. What is the preoccupation of the population today in the northwest and southwest region? You are a man of God. I'm sure you receive many of them, but regularly you get down to Boya, Kumba, and Limbe. What is their preoccupation today?
Yeah, Mr. Leo, at the very outset of the crisis, the aspirations of the people, if you could do an analysis by then, was that they needed separation, they needed to break out of Cameroon. As a matter of fact, 3/4 of the population within the northwest and the southwest wanted secession, and they were actually agitating for that. As a matter of fact, as the days are going by, the drama is changing its direction. We are no longer seeing things the way they used to be, and all you hear now from northwest to southwest is one piece. As a matter of fact, we were agitating at a particular time for secession. At a certain level, people came down to federation. At a certain level, they came down to confederation. And then when the special status was granted, it was insulted. Others have also dwindled down to the special status. As a matter of fact, nobody's even asking for the form of state anymore. People are asking for peace, because the absence of peace has caused a lot of atrocities and casualties within the Northwest and the Southwest. As a matter of fact, life is no longer the way it used to be, but nevertheless, as the war persists and the war has persisted throughout this period, it is but certain that everybody is agitating now but for peace. And that's the reason why when the idea of the Canadian-led dialogue came up, it was embraced by everyone, thinking that they could arrive at a consensus to bring peace back to the North and the Southwest. Because if you ask any ordinary person living in the North and the Southwest, all they will tell you right now is that they are not interested in whatever people want to do. What they want is peace back in the Northwest and the Southwest. That is a predominant desire. That is what everybody is agitating for right now. So whatever measure, whatever shortcut they are going to use to bring peace back, peace is a major ingredient that is lacking. As a matter of fact, everybody is agitating now for peace, not even to achieve something anymore.
Okay. What would explain this turn of the aspirations or desires in the population? Is it fatigue in waiting, or the fact that there are frustration and so much suffering?
Mr. Leo, the aspirations of the people initially was very, very high because they had not gone through some difficulties in life. Okay. Sometimes they used to say, when you are hungry and you are still selecting food, it means you are not hungry. If you are truly hungry, you will eat anything that is around you as far as it can quench your hunger. At the initial stage of this crisis, everybody, most of us, were agitating for so many things. Everybody was asking for something. People wanted federation, others wanted confederation, others wanted secession, and in a nutshell, people wanted some kind of change in government. But we see, as the days are going by, based on the effect of the crisis upon the people, economically, socially, educationally, psychologically, emotionally, as a matter of fact, it has changed people's perspective. And this is why we used to say, when a man is drowning, even if he has to hold the tail of a crocodile to survive as his last hope, he will hold the tail of a crocodile. A drowning man also sees the tail of a python as a means of survival. That is where the Northwest and the Southwest, they have come to right now. They have come to the place of that drowning man who has seen the tail of a crocodile as the only means of survival. And that's the reason why they are insisting that they want peace. Out of what has happened so far, Mr. Leo, you don't expect, initially when the crisis started, children had not suffered not going to school, businesses had not collapsed, people had not died in their numbers, properties were not destroyed, others had not become refugees, others had not become IDPs, people had not deserted their environment, people had not lost that ecstasy, that joy of home, people, that feeling of nostalgia they're developing right now, they are missing home. We used to get up 10 holiday, you roast mamenda, you eat corn, roasted corn, roast corn and plantain, roast corn and boiled granite. You will eat other things in the village, but that passion to go back again is not there. Most villages are deserted, people are no longer staying there. So as a matter of fact, all these things I have named have contributed to the reason why people are now missing so many things, and they have seen that the consequences and the damages of the crisis is even more than what they are agitating for, because no change of government can bring the amount of souls that have died, the houses destroyed, the education plundered, businesses frustrated, careers destroyed, as well as innocent souls that have died in the course of the crisis. What kind of government? Is it independence, federalism, that can be exchanged for human life? No amount of government, no change of government.
Yeah, but the fact that a lot has been done as far as our damage is concerned, many persons would tell you that we'd rather die because we've lost so many persons. Thousands of persons have died. We cannot get to this level and want to get back. We have to fight till the end.
Mr. Leo, I think in English we have superlative and comparative. There is good, better, best. There is bad, worse, worst.
Okay.
We're at the bad stage. We've gone to the worst.
Okay.
We shouldn't allow things to go to the worst. It's bad, worse, worst. I think it's common sense. It's intelligence for us to look at where we are right now, look at what we've achieved so far, and then imagine if we insist fighting, where are we going to land tomorrow? Because the truth is, From every indication, initially when the crisis started, there were more fighters, there was much money, people were there to support the cause. But as the days are going by, we no longer have so many fighters. We no longer have money anymore to sustain the cause. People also have gone through a lot of torture, psychological. People were not kidnapped in those days. Families have turned, who were in support of the crisis, have turned against the crisis. And if you put all this in a nutshell, you realize that even the desire and the passion to support again in the hearts of people has actually died. Now, if you look at it critically, the collaboration between the population and the boys in the bushes are no longer the same. Why? If you move in some communities that were first of all deserted, were first very, very, very harsh, you will discover there is calm returning to the environment, which means the heat of the crisis is dwindling. For instance, in places like Bamenda, you go to places like Kumba, you go to places like Boya, they are not that hot again as they used to be hot around the 2016 to 2017. That is to let you understand that a lot has gone along the line that it has helped to quench down the crisis. And this is the reason why we must look at things not just from where we are coming from, but from where we are right now, where we are going to. Anybody who does not look yesterday, look today, and look at the future has no destination. When I hear people keep holding that we started in 2016, it was like this. Can you give us the analysis of 2016 and that of 2022? There is a gap. There is a difference. Things are no longer the way they used to be. Now, how many people were supporting this crisis initially as is supporting it? Many people have turned along the line. People have changed their aspirations, they have changed their beliefs, they have changed their concept as far as the crisis keep advancing. Because why? So much has gone within this period that has changed a lot of people's perspectives and their approach to the crisis anymore. So I think it's very normal for us to also sit down and reason that we do no longer have the energy financially, the energy physically, the energy in number, the energy in support as we used to have, rather than holding on to what we cannot sustain. Why don't you think of a new strategy on how to embrace peace and be able to avert or avoid what may still come in the future?
Okay. Now, how much hope did the population have for the announced Canada dialogue?
I have been on the field. It came like a test quencher.
Okay.
The Canadian initiative, when we went through the papers, the headlines of papers, and on TV, television stations, every TV station was talking about Canada coming as a mediator to negotiate between the English-speaking region, the fighters, and they even named some group like the AGOV, or the interim government, the Liberation Party for Africa, and so forth. I mean, when the newspaper carried those informations on their headlines, it was something that almost everybody felt a relief had come, because we were in nowhere, in like a ship that has lost its radar in the middle of the sea. That's where every Anglophone found themselves within that period. So when the Canadian-led dialogue came, it was like a relief. Everybody embraced it. We got excited, say, at last something has come that will resolve this problem. Even if it does not give full independence, let it at least come to resolve the crisis, so that souls should no longer be dying. People can still go back home and start life all over again. People can go back and reconstruct their houses. We can go back again, live in our community that we used to live. We can go back, practice our culture. We can go back to school. We can live in our community, the life we used to live. We can go back home and still feel like children of that particular motherland. Now, when this idea came, and then suddenly from nowhere, I, as an individual, to be sincere, when I heard that the government had debunked the idea that the Canadian government ever had any negotiation with them, Mr. Lowe, I was broken. I felt so bad. I said, but this is like a beacon of light rising from somewhere. How suddenly from nowhere this initiative is dying down? I was thinking, okay, rather it would be the other way around, that the separatists are the one saying that no, we don't want any negotiation. But I saw the Minister of Communication came out and said there was nothing of that, so I was surprised, considering the fact that the Canadian Foreign Minister had published this thing. Could the Canadian government be this vulnerable, this cheap, to have come on air to make an announcement on something that wasn't real? Well, for somebody who has studied crisis, it's always like that. If you study the Biafran crisis, they went to Aburi in Ghana. They sat there, Gowon and Ojukwu, they spoke. It was the Aburi Accord. Then they spoke, so everything was okay. When they left, that was when Gowon and Ojukwu came back and started war. So sometimes when negotiations are going on, things like this will come up. It doesn't mean that they are not discussing. Now, we always said that the Biafra submitted, the Biafra surrendered. Talks were going on. Talks were held in Addis Ababa, talks were held in Nigeria, talks were held in other places in Africa before they finally came to the conclusion that Biafra had to drop their guns and surrender. But the issue is, let us not conclude that because the Minister of Communication made this statement, it means everything has been wiped out. Because I don't think the Canadian government could be that stupid enough through their foreign minister to come on air and then broadcast something that had
you say the population had high hopes.
High hopes, expectations
the people
were very
of the
high.
Southwest. What were the core expectations?
The expectations, first and foremost, was that at last peace is returning, because that negotiation or the meeting will not go without them coming to a consensus. The cry of the poor right now is not just even looking for a system of government or some kind of independence. They are looking for that peace that they have missed for the past 7 years. So if there is an initiative coming to broker peace, that was what first and foremost every Southern Cameroonian was excited about, because at least peace is coming back. Even if I'm not going to get anything, let me go back home and still walk my cocoyam and eat my focon and vegetable and have peace where I used to be. We are going to stop the hearing of guns from here and there. Our children will have the access to go back to school. It was on this that most of the Southern Cameroonians that were around where I was and where I visited were hanging on that at least peace is going to return. If you ask any Southern Cameroonian at this particular level, Mr. Liu, they will tell you that to be sincere, what they want is peace. Whatever method they are going to use to bring us this peace, they should bring us peace. So the idea of the Canadian government was greatly appreciated, and I think it was embraced by so many Southern Cameroonians.
Yes, but my question is now, what were the expectations of a possible outcome? Were the people thinking that, okay, finally we're going to have independence, we're going to have federation? Because many articles already went out there,
yes.
Many audios already went out that, okay, this is time for victory.
Mr. Liu, I don't think the Southern Cameroonians will ever believe that Canada, being a country that has practiced semi-federalism, because what is practiced in Canada is not confederation, it's semi-federalism, will want to come and separate a country. They have not set that example, because they are equally going through what we are going through. There's a minority of the Francophones in Canada and a majority of the Anglophones. Why did they not secede? Why did they not separate? So if Canada is coming in, I don't think they are coming to introduce something in our system that they do not practice, because as a matter of fact, if you are going to be a negotiator, you must be an example to what you are coming to negotiate. If you are going to be a negotiator, you are going to be a role model, a pathfinder, and a trailblazer on that path you want to carry people to go through. So if Canada is coming as a bilingual country to stand as an intermediary or a mediator to broker peace between Southern Cameroons and West Cameroon and French Cameroon, the issue is I don't think they were supposed to have first of all put secession as part of their agenda, because they did not promote that in their country. I don't think they're coming. But the truth is, there is a system of government in Canada that gives every individual a place and a right. And I think they are trying to collect their initiative there to bring it there that we live this way in Canada and everyone has full right and privileges. Because if you go to the Quebec special status, if Canada has to transfer that here, it is not different from federation. It has a certain level of autonomy it gives to individuals. For instance, if you're going to be a senator in a particular community in Canada, according to the Quebec status, you are supposed to be an individual from that particular community. Your responsibility, you have to live in that community. Not the one you are a senator of Balikumba, you are staying in Yaoundé. No, the protocols guiding the Quebec status is that as an individual, you must stay there, live inside the community and be able to see what the people are going through. The French are the Francophones are the minority in Canada, that they have full right. There is a percentage they have inside the Senate and the General Assembly that gives them right to abort whatever the English senators speak. That power is there. It's just like the Britain parliamentary system of government where you have the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The common man has a say. That's why you have the House of Commons. Though you are common in England, it doesn't mean that you don't have a say. So if Canada has to come as an intermediary or a mediator to broker peace between these two fighters, I think what they were supposed to have come to duplicate here was supposed to have been the Quebec status operation, which to me, as somebody who has read it intensively, is the best we may need for now that may satisfy both parties.
Okay, the best we may need for now. in the interest of both parties involved in the conflict in Cameroon, the southwest and northwest regions particularly. Now, are we not also victims of persons who think that Cameroonian problems should be fixed by Cameroon, and that African problems should be solved by Africans?
Yes, Mr. Liu, I have preached that. I preached that because initially I got disappointed with the international community. The Canada coming in as a nation is different from the huge bodies that ever came here. The Commonwealth came here and did nothing. Francophonie came here, did nothing. AU came here, did nothing. United Nations came here, did nothing. Now, if Canada is coming up as a nation, I welcome it, because why? It was New Zealand that settled the course between Bougainville and Papua New Guinea. They had a crisis. Bougainville was the commercial city that produced all the world, but they were deprived of the privileges. So when they had the crisis and fought for so many years, they had difficulty, secession, division among themselves, and then finally came back together. It was New Zealand as a nation. That's why I keep saying that all these international bodies we keep hanging on will take us nowhere. Very, very few nations have goodwill and good faith in this world, who have sometimes the compassion to go into cases. New Zealand came in between them, broke up peace, called for a referendum, and then Papua New Guinea was separated from Bougainville. So I think if Canada is coming, Canada has taken the initiative as a nation to come. Now, that was why I was very disappointed. But that any other person may come right now to bring us peace, we welcome the individual. So for us to just put it fixed in our mind, because if you are somebody who is doing analysis, you must be flexible. If you are somebody who is following cases in life, you must be flexible. You must not hold on to one thing, because you can hold on to something that is no longer relevant. That is the truth. You cannot hold on to the fourth. You must be very flexible and somebody who is dynamic in such a way that anywhere you think that solution can come in, you can be able to open up in that sector. Now, the secessionists insisted on the Swiss. For them to have given their accord on the Canadian, it means equally they have opened up, because we were saying that at first the government has taken measures to bring down the crisis to an end, and the secessionists were, I was surprised that they even gave the accord, because I have always known them as the rigid type of people who do not want to take another stand. They want to hold on to what they were holding on to.
But Sako and Marianta rubbished whatever was going to happen.
Sako and Marianta are not up to 10% of the number of groups that exist. I think Marianta and Sako are just a minority to the number of persons that exist in different factors. If the different segments had accepted and they gave their accord, and the government also complied, and they reached in Canada negotiations, I don't think that minor group of Sako and Marianta has the capacity to swallow all the other groups. That's the truth. We have to be sincere here. Now, if at all we are dealing with this issue, if Canada is coming in, I will embrace Canada, because as a nation, my disappointment with the international community came when the major bodies we knew had the capacity to broker peace, either by force or by reconciliation, did not do anything. So I got disappointed. But if Canada is coming in, who am I to refuse peace? Anybody that can, if peace is coming from Mr. Liu today, I will embrace it. If it's coming from a Ghanaian, I will embrace it, as long as it will stop the mayhem, the frustration, I mean, we don't want to name the different adjectives to describe the kind of torture people are going through in northern
when you listen to the key stakeholders, the actors, the common man, as you say, wants peace.
Yes,
but
peace.
Where is the common man's interest in all of what the key decision makers are doing?
The common man's interest, first and foremost, is that he is the one that is caught in the crossfire. At least if he does not die, he has life to live. That's the truth. So they are not looking for peace because of what they want to gain. They are looking for peace because they want to live. Giving the privilege to live is one of the reasons why the common man needs peace. Because they don't even have that privilege to live anymore. The people who are the key decision makers do not face the bullets. They don't face the hunger. They don't face the unprecedented attacks. They don't face the IDP life. They don't face the refugee life. They don't face it. So the common man who is in between these two giants, as is commonly said in English, two elephants fight, the grass is suffer. So the common is this grass where these two elephants are beating themselves and the grass is suffering. So the grass wants to live, at least the privilege to live, because life now again is no longer a privilege. You don't even have that privilege to live your life, because at any time you know you can be blown off. Look at somebody who was killed recently. What life is that? There are children whose fathers are militaries, gendarmes, police. They have not had the privilege to live. Women have become widows. Children have become fatherless. Is it husband becoming widowers and children becoming motherless? They don't even have that privilege. But in an atmosphere that is serene, an atmosphere that is calm, an atmosphere that has peace, an atmosphere that is, conducive for human habitation, at least the common man is agitating to have that privilege to live. Because to live anymore in this country is no longer a right. To live in this country is chance. How can one be living by chance?
It's chance. You are a man of God, Apostle Ambe Valentine. I was here yesterday with Barrister Bala and you see the common man's interest is to live.
Is to live.
And the stakeholders, they have other interests. Which could be, what could be their interest? Away from taking care of the common man.
Their interest, first and foremost, I don't think is just to take care of the common man. They want to lead.
Okay. They want to take power.
They want to take power. Asking for independence means you want to lead. And you cannot fight for independence and allow somebody else to lead. You want to lead. Number two, there are resources you want to control because leadership influences resources. So the interest of position and the interest of resources is what has kept the common man in between the devil and the deep blue sea. Because at the end of the day, even that common man may not have access to those positions and to those resources. We have seen in Riek Machar and Salva Kiir in South Sudan, the people who fought, the young men that fought in the streets for almost 30 years with guns and everywhere. Have you ever heard of any of them being appointed? It was the Riek Machar. Salva Kiir became president, Riek Machar vice president. Where is that common boy who was smoking cocaine and still shooting in the street? Where is the young man that smoked, drank Panadol and shot in the street? Where is the young man that carried gun from one city, from Juba to Khartoum, or from one city to another to fight? Where is the young man? You won't hear them on the front line of newspapers. You won't hear them on televisions. You won't hear them on radios. You will not. So they who fought, they are nowhere to be found. And that is where our problem is. Now, Riek Machar who fought became vice president because he was given position. Riek Machar who fought, Salva Kiir that fought became president. The resources of the country, the positions of the country are in the hands of these key stakeholders. Where is that young man that fought in Juba? The young man that fought in Khartoum? The young man that fought in other cities? Where are they? You go to Sierra Leone, where are the young man who fought in the street, who shot guns? You go to Liberia, where are they? You will never hear the names of these young men that carry guns in the street. You will never hear their names. But you see, when they were shooting, these stakeholders were somewhere seated. When they were fighting, these stakeholders were somewhere seated. When it came to negotiation of peace, they negotiated for these people to come to power, and the young man is never to be found anywhere. So I think the young man, the people of the street, the ordinary man, the common man is agitating for the privilege to live. I think to live is a right. It should not be a chance. It should not be a chance. So this idea of government has said this one has said this, that the negotiation or the peace talks are not going to hold is heartbreaking. It's disappointing. Everyone wants peace. Even the clergy came out. The bishop, the moderator, the Baptists, the imams of North Boya and Bamenda, they all came out. They said they want peace. You and I know that negotiation or dialogue is the only way out to conflicts like this in Africa. So I don't know what's actually going on. As a matter of fact, my hopes were dashed when I heard that communique came out that the government has not given its consent when it comes to the issue of the negotiation with the Canadian.
Yeah, but we are talking about the interest of the common man, and you say all what they want now is peace, but many persons say we want justice before peace. From the human rights perspective, Barrister Agbobala yesterday said, without peace, You cannot even try persons. He used the scenario in Sierra Leone. Yes, but as a man of God, how do we sort this out? Because some persons are hanging that, okay, we want peace, but we want justice before peace. How does that work out?
Mr. Leo, every particular project has a scale of preference.
Okay.
I think if we go on a scale of preference, when we say according to conflict resolution there must be justice before peace, it's a human philosophy that was instituted by individuals, and that thing is not omniscient, it's not omnipresent, it's not omnipotent, it is not unchangeable, it is not unbreakable. If we say we must receive justice before peace, let us look at the situation on ground. Who is going to give justice? Number one. Number two, who has been proven guilty? Number three, who is the judge to decipher or determine who is guilty or who is not guilty? That is the issue right now. I think if we give peace a chance, then we should be ready to go in now for justice. Let us change the protocol and give peace a chance. Then from there, we can now go in for justice. I know of a case of a Rwandan who actually was caught after some years. I think almost 10 years after the Rwandan war, before they were given justice. Another person was arrested as a Congolese after some years. So how did justice come? How did justice come? Because we don't seem to understand it. Rwanda has faced one of the most, how do I put it? Most wicked crisis in this Africa. Did they get justice for peace? It wasn't like that. There was a peace negotiation.
The guns must first stop smoking.
The guns must stop smoking before we can negotiate for who is supposed to be judged or not. You don't expect justice to come for peace. I think that is this insistence of justice for peace is because some people have read that in conflict management there must be justice for peace. It's somebody who instituted it. It is not a law that came from heaven.
Yeah, but can we have a notion of even if justice has to be instituted before peace? Now, justice for who?
Is that not what I've just asked here? I've just asked here who is supposed to be judged? Who is going to pass the judgment? What analysis have been taken for justice to be passed on who? Why don't we give peace a chance for we fish out those who are criminals?
And okay, war entrepreneurs seemingly, as many persons are thinking, because the people say we want peace, but there are persons who have tasted money in this process.
Of course.
There are persons who have never touched $1 million, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50 million, who now are touching it every day, every week, and have tasted it. And also, on the other side, there are persons who are also feeling fat from what is happening in the northwest and southwest regions. Don't you think that these entrepreneurs who are also core drivers and may not really be interested in anything that has to stop the crisis?
The truth is, I speak as a servant of God. God will punish every entrepreneur of this war. Whoever is taking human lives, people's property, children's education, women's life for their self-interest. A few people jeopardizing the destiny of millions of people, because the war entrepreneurs are not compared to those who have died. The war entrepreneurs in number are not compared to those who have not gone to school. The war entrepreneurs are not compared to those who have become IDPs or refugees. The few persons, I repeat, who have decided for their self-interest, self-greed, to jeopardize the destinies of millions of people, first and foremost, God will not forgive you. And to me, the best of my understanding, I do not see how a few persons who are privileged to be in a place of power are using the destinies of other persons to trade. Because this is a trade of souls. You are trading with human life. You are doing extra with human life. I want to ask, for the past 6 years, since they started collecting money as a result of the crisis, if they are not rich till now, it means the money is cursed. Because I think anybody who is a war entrepreneur in this crisis must have made enough money right now to stop the war. But if till now they haven't yet gotten enough money to stop the war, it means what they have is a curse. and what they are going to have in the near future will never suffice them. And let me tell you, if human souls are a means through which you make your income, you are going to pay, and your generation will pay for it. You are leaving a legacy that children will rise up from your loins tomorrow. They will suffer the casualties. The war entrepreneurs who are involved into this thing, and they don't want this crisis to cease, I don't think they are more than those who can stop them. It's just because the population has not decided to stop the crisis. And the people who think they can stop the crisis in this particular system, both in the separatist camp and the government camp, there are individuals there. I don't think they're war entrepreneurs. They have not taken their stand. And if at all we want to put this thing in a nutshell, I think the population of the entire 10 regions of Cameroon are more than these few warlords. If far north, north, east, south, center, littoral, northwest, southwest rise up and they say this crisis must come to an end, it will come to an end.
Okay, so the population also has to be blamed.
They have a role to play.
Mr. Leo, good evening. It is clear that there can be no peace without a dialogue. Richard writing from Bamenda, greetings to you people in the studio. I like the facts Apostle is giving. God bless you all. Edward from Ambam. Good evening, Big Boss, Mr. Kum Leonard. My greetings to Apostle. All we need now is peace, pa. We want to return back home, bro. I support Apostle. Yanet Noel writing from Bonaberry. Mr. Leo, some people at their comfort zone may celebrate their victory of separation or federation, but if you ask a common man, his answer will be, I want peace. Boro is writing from Fundong. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Professor Ambe. In my own perspective, the reason why Cameroon government doesn't want to accept the negotiations is that the Canadian government is a transparent government, while the Cameroon government is secretive. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I just wish to thank you for the wonderful job you are doing for the good of this country, Mr. Kum. If anybody tells you that there is no war on ground in the northwest and southwest regions is untrue. The level of insecurity and gruesome killings in Bamenda is higher than it was a year ago. The issue is that neither the government nor the non-state fighters talk about deaths. We are in serious trouble. I am Witri Barnabas writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Even if a snake can propose you peace, I will accept because I want to live. I'm Moses from Mbongo, Sokapam, okay? Sanaga Maritime. Good evening, Mr. Liu. What a common man needs now is only peace. Both parties should forget about ego and sit down so that we can have freedom to move. Mbeng Zebedi writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Apostle Ambe. A question to Apostle Ambe. If we assume that the people just want peace, Apostle, take note of this question. This is Julius Choffo writing from the UK. He says, if we assume that the people want peace, what does he, as an oracle of Africa's problems and possible solution, want? Just peace or mediated solution to the root causes of the crisis? Can we learn anything from where the peace of the last 60 years has led us to? Today, you are going to answer, Apostle. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Some people are not consistent in their analysis. Some said there will never be a day where any country will bring up such initiative as Canada. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Canada is a bilingual country like Cameroon, but with two different governments. The both English and French people are treated the way true citizens are treated in their country. And it's clearly shown it's not the same way we as Anglophones are treated in this country. Karen is writing from Boya. Mr. Kum, good evening. I think the Canadians have written after the Cameroonian Minister of Communication brought out his release. So I think, in my opinion, the Cameroon government have been given the opportunity to right the wrong and join the bandwagon for the search of peace. Let those who are scrambling to take over power not derail the good cause for peace. Randall is writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. We have lost lots of a victim. I think peace can come when both parties agree to sit together. If the government is only talking about things coming back to normal, I say zero, because as victim I never benefit anything from all it they have been given people like us. The government should embrace peace talks. Gaston is writing from Limbe. Hello, Mr. Liu. I'm enjoying the program from Yaoundé. Apostle Ambe saying the very truth. Okay, can you answer to Julius Chaffo?
Yes, Julius Chaffo say if we assume.
Can I read it over?
Yes, read it.
Okay. Let me take it all over, please. Messages are so many. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Apostle Ambe. A question to Apostle Ambe. If we assume that people just want peace, what does he, as an oracle of African problems and possible solutions, want? Just peace or a mediated solution to the root cause of the crisis? Can we learn anything from where the peace of the late 60 years has led us to today?
Okay, Julius, to begin with, I want to answer that. I want to select particular words in your question and answer. You say assume. If the people assume, if we assume the people want peace, we are not assuming. I live on ground. And from the other messages you have heard, those who are writing from ground. There's a difference between assumption and what you want. They are not assuming. We are not assuming. That is what the people want. So don't misinterpret what is a desire, what is a need, and what is an assumption.
What
the people are
living
not assuming. People are living here and they are telling you that they want peace by all costs. Even if peace is coming from Mr. Liu. I heard somebody said
if it's from the snake.
They want peace. That's to let you understand that is the aspirations of the people. First. Number two, as an individual, what do I want? I will want peace. And let me tell you, peace can never come without negotiation. And that is the reason why this particular meeting was needed. This meeting will carry along a peace negotiation and a settlement of the crisis. It is peace that gives opportunity for people to settle and negotiate. Now we are at war and nobody wants to sit down with the other. That's already the absence of peace, because if people are at peace, they will sit down to discuss. The fact that they have refused to sit down means they have denied the path to peace. So you are like trying to put the cart in front of the horse. No, the cart supposed to be behind the horse. That cart is the mediated solution. Why the peace is the horse. Give that peace an opportunity so that we can now sit down and negotiate. It takes only two enemies not to sit down. If we are no longer enemies, the first thing we have to do is to do what? Is to sit down. Because if we want to negotiate, I think they have to throw out the bitterness and anger they have for each other to sit down first. The fact that they have refused to sit down means they have not given peace a chance. You cannot place a demand after you have accepted the peace idea, the idea of peace, sorry. So I think we should not set the cart before the horse. Let us now accept the fact that we want to live as brothers again. We now want to reconcile. We now sit. Then I tell you that what you did in this place was not correct. It was peace that gave us first the opportunity to sit down. So when we keep talking about peace, it's because this peace is a platform where we can now air our views, air our grievances, and then be able to negotiate and come to a consensus. I'm sure I answered you, my brother Julius from England.
Okay, just peace or mediated solution. Yes, but I really want us to look at this issue of justice. Some persons actually think that without justice, there cannot be peace. If justice has to be looked into and implemented before peace, how would that justice look like? Because I don't know how people...
Mr. you ask for justice when you are not guilty.
Okay.
Both parties are guilty. I'm an Anglophone. I will say I'm a Southern Cameroonian. We are equally guilty on so many things. This war has not gone through without us committing crimes. So if you are talking about justice, justice is not punishing somebody. Justice is finding where each and everyone has made a mistake and is sanctioned. And you cannot tell me that all throughout the crisis, Anglophones have not made their own mistakes. They have made mistakes equally with the government. So if justice is coming, this justice they keep calling, we take some of them. This justice they keep agitating for, we pick some of them. Because what about justice? Justice will pick some of them. Going to the root cause of the crisis, with what has happened till now, it is been certain that if Mr. Liu hits me to look for justice, I should go to the police and report him. Let the law take its course. If I hit you back, I'm guilty. So both of us are guilty. If we go to justice, we are going to be sentenced. So who is asking for justice? Who is asking for justice now? Because both parties are guilty. Do you think the international community come today to arrest? They will not arrest someone for war crime. They will arrest people for war crimes. All those who instigated and recruited young men to carry guns, they are guilty. And equally, the government is guilty too, also to have carried out some certain acts in the north and south. So both parties are guilty. What's the justice they're talking about? What justice? Because justice is the law.
Yeah, but there is this insistence, Apostle Ambe, that we cannot solve this problem without going back to the root causes. That is going back to 1961. How does that fix issues? How does that make us move forward?
Mr. Leo, the challenge we have is this 1961 problem is older than this generation. I think we are about the 4th generation behind this 1961 issue. The fathers, who were the ones who initiated the 1961 issue, were still alive when things turned around. They attempted to solve the problem. They could not. Another generation came, attempted to solve the problem. They could not. Another generation came. Now, this generation is the only generation that has carried arms with respect to the 1961 challenge. This is the generation that has taken it further by carrying arms. I want to ask a sincere question to us as Anglophones. Since the parents and the fathers who started this initiative of the 1961 root cause or challenges, 1972, those people were still alive, they were not dead, and they saw this country reunited. In 1979, they saw how constitution was changed from the Speaker of the House of Assembly being St. Muna, who was second in command, to the Prime Minister being second in command in 1979. Where were they? They did nothing. 1982, power was transferred to President Paul Biya. 1984, there was an attempted coup in this country, not from even the fathers who were cheated in the constitution. The coup was foiled. Now, 1992, 1990, elections came out. SDF won the elections, and they were deprived of the victory. Another father like Frundi refused for people to pick gun in the street. Let's accept the fact that this generation is a never again generation that picks gun. Now, we have picked gun for 6, getting to 7 years. I want us to take a stock on those people who began this crisis did not pick gun. The standard of living, the way of life, the opportunities, the privileges that they had with a generation that picked gun and fought. What is the difference between this generation and the generation that saw the same problem and refused to pick guns? That's what we were supposed to be asking. I'm doing it as analysis. I'm not challenging anybody. This father saw this crisis. Frontier was in this country in 1972. Right to 1980, he was there. It was in 1990 when elections were rigged over the SDF. Let us now calculate those people now who saw this problem, refused to pick guns, tried to use diplomacy, elections to solve the problem, and they could not get a solution. To us who came to this never again generation that decided to pick gun, what is the standard of living, the way of life, the infrastructure, the well-being of those individuals as compared to us in this generation that picked gun to face the system? I think if we do a compare and a contrast between these two different generations, we will know where we missed it or where they missed it. And if we think that this generation has done better than the generation that wanted to use a peaceful approach to solve the problem, then I think we should insist and continue with that. But if we know that this generation has taken steps that has plunged our side of the country into more problems, more challenges, more difficulties, then I think it's time for us to have a retrospect and be able to think that Frundi had a chance to pick on this country. Foncha and the Muna that got disappointed had the chance to pick gun this country, did not pick gun. Let us accept that we are that youthful generation that got frustrated, we pick gun. For the past 7 years, let's compare the life with those people who did not pick gun and the ones who pick gun. For 7 years that we pick gun, how is Northwest and Southwest? For the past 50 years that those fathers did not pick gun, how was Northwest and Southwest?
Okay. Good evening, sir. All what we want is peace. Take us to the normal life we always had. Ayuk Atem Justine writing from Mamfi. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Have we not cried more than enough? What else do this government want to see before they will have mercy? Even the devil is not as wicked as what I am seeing. Okay. Etienne Fonyi is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and our able, level-headed man. Besides peace is better than war. And if the government rejects the proposal, Canadian peace talks, I think there is something fishy about the fear of being exposed before the whole wide world. People are tired of war, and it's high time we give peace a chance. Tata Yangson writing from Boyu Division. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please greet Apostle for me. He's speaking sense. It's Labi Peter from Babenga, Bekoko. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and all in the studio. Please, all we need in Cameroon is peace and love, for the Bible says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. We had not looked for who offered. Okay, please, not just love but the love of God. Aku Ventilator from Guinea Equatorial Bata. Greetings to Apostle Ambe. Love all you are saying for peace and love to come back to Cameroon. These are messages that are coming. I'm not selecting any. I'm just reading them as they are coming. I'm sure those who are in Prime R Forum, I'm forwarding these messages so that some persons may think that I'm selecting. You are getting the messages.
Yes.
Why is it difficult for persons to believe that this is what people want? Because sincerely, if I write on my Facebook page today that from the messages that have come in,
everybody wants peace.
3/4,
yes,
not everybody, they will say, no, Mr. Liu, you are selecting the messages you are reading. Why is it difficult to,
Mr. Liu, before these messages started coming, I'm sure I told you I went to the field and I spoke with, I've been on field, I've been there talking to Cameroonians, especially people from the English speaking region of the country, regions of the country. I told you one time, and I'm still saying it right now, if you ask an ordinary man in the street that what system of government do you want, they will tell you the system of government they want now is peace. Even though peace is not a system of government, they will tell, because why? That is predominantly what has consumed every soul. Most of the people who write and debunk the idea of negotiation or peace are people who are not on ground. They have not tasted an inch. You must understand that now what we are facing again is not just a political war in this country. We are at an economic war. And as a matter of fact, without the Anglophone crisis, the price of basic commodities is enough war. I said somewhere, I said, we had a political war. Now, we are now having an economic war. It was the economic war in Sudan that gave birth to the political crisis that ousted Omar el-Bashir in power. But you see, our own political war has lasted until it has now finally landed to a place of an economic war. You buying visit technique or roadworthy certificate for 18,000, that was 9,000, that's a war. You buying fiscal stamp for 1,500 or 1,000, that is war. You buying vignette, that was 25,000 or 50,000, that's enough war, Mr. Liu. That's war without any gunshot. In your bedroom, you are fighting with bills. In your bedroom, you are wrestling with bills. Landlords are increasing rents almost every day. They are about to increase fuel prices because Cameroon government is intending to drop subsidies by 50%. That will now push a liter of fuel to at least 1,000 francs CFA. The man who transports huckleberry from Muya Market to Douala for 2,000 will not transport it for 4,000 francs. So we have enough war to even think of the fact that we are trying to sideline peace over this political issue is as bad as living in hell, because the economy we are going through right now is even more dangerous than the guns we are carrying in the bush. People will die of heart attack, people will die of high blood pressure, some will die of stroke because of the bills that has come upon them. So the economic war we are facing is even stronger than the political war we are even dancing about. I think we should do everything possible to curb the crisis, to stop the political war so that we can be able to face the economic war. Yes. I said one time, I said the last time that Macron came to this country, I think we had a program on this level, I said they're going to devalue the CFA France. And they devalued it. And this is what we are facing right now. Mr. Liu, without any gunshot, the bills you now cover in your house, are they not, isn't there enough stress? The bills individuals that in Cameroon cover is enough stress. It's enough stress for you to just sit like this and have an attack.
Apostle Ambe, we are appreciating what has been done so far and what should follow I don't know whether to describe it as a field, first Canadian-led initiative, but what is your appreciation of the way the international community has played along since the start of this conflict?
I have been very disappointed in the international community.
Okay.
And I will still say it till date. I keep saying it looks like Africa's problems, they are not of any importance to the international community, because the way they intervene when it comes to European problems and other countries, it looks like we are a lesser species of human beings. I can tell you that Cameroon or African countries have fought wars more complicated than that of Ukraine. But if you look at the support that European countries and the US has given to Ukraine as a nation to sustain the fight against Russia, if at all such interventions were in this continent, Africa, in some countries, would have stopped some certain wars ere long. I am sure many wars have been fought in this Africa and they have led to untold casualties. But you see, the international community has played a blind eye to most of the things happening in Africa. But look at the kind of support. You will hear that they are sending drones from Poland. Germany is sending launchers. This one is sending rocket launchers. UN is sending, US is sending this. Why are they so much concerned about what is happening in Ukraine than what happens in Africa? The international community that claims to be the umbrella community that controls and helps to bring peace. Because when I read in my O-levels or A-levels history, one of the purpose of the UN Security Council was to broker peace or to bring peace in countries. But until you hear that thousands and millions have died in certain communities, you don't see these so-called international bodies, in quotes, come to intervene or solve problem. They will send a representative who will come and talk and then go back. You cannot see them intervene and bring peace. Why did they go into Sudan? They went to Sudan and there were almost about 5,600 UN soldiers in Sudan in Darfur, because Omar el-Bashir never listened to them. And their target was to oust somebody that did not listen to them in order to put somebody that will listen to them. That's the reason why they send the UN forces, not just to go and protect individuals in Darfur, but to go and enforce the purpose of the United Nations by kicking out Omar el-Bashir. And now you discover that their interest was in Sudan because it's an oil-rich country. That's the reason why they send the United Nations forces. What has happened in southern Cameroon is enough to have received United Nations forces. What happened in Liberia? What happened? It was the ECOMOG forces that had to go and kick Yahya Jammeh out of Gambia before Adama Barrow took power. Where was UN? Where was AU? Where was La Francophonie? Where was Commonwealth? So I have never appreciated the international community's approach as far as the crisis in this country is concerned. They are a disappointment. I will say it now till eternity.
The disappointment, but how about Africa? And why are you disappointed with the international community? Cameroon is a sovereign state. Cameroon is part of the United Nations and some other instances. So do you think that they would easily get into Cameroon?
This sovereignty we are talking about should not only go when Cameroon has a crisis. They should also allow Cameroon control its oil. That's sovereignty. They should allow Cameroon control its cocoa, its bauxite, its iron, its coffee, and every other resources. What we are talking about this sovereignty sometimes gives me running stomach, because this sovereignty happens to be like when Cameroon is beating another Cameroonian, Cameroon is sovereign. But when it comes to Cameroon controlling resources, Cameroon is not sovereign. When Cameroon making who is supposed to lead, Cameroon is not sovereign. Cameroon setting up its own electoral laws, Cameroon is not sovereign. Cameroon running its own education, Cameroon is not sovereign. Cameroon having a judicial system, Cameroon is not sovereign. Cameroon deciding its next president, Cameroon is not sovereign. Cameroon is only sovereign when Cameroon is beating another Cameroonian. That's not sovereignty. So we should bury that subject of sovereignty into a mass grave. That's not sovereignty. So when it comes to this, Cameroon is a sovereign nation. Let us allow Cameroon solve its problem. Ukraine is a sovereign nation. Why are they intervening in Ukraine? DRC is a sovereign nation. Why are they stepping in DRC? So this sovereignty is the way individuals interpret it. It has to do with individual interpretation. Because to me, as far as I'm concerned, that sovereignty does not fit this nation. Because if they say we are sovereign, they should give us chance to also process our own oil. You don't expect that we are drilling oil in Sonara and we have right to process only or refine 20%. Then 80% is sold as crude oil. What rubbish.
Okay, what rubbish your appreciation of Africa? The AU and these South-African instances also.
Omar Sankara said in 1987, I quote, "He that feeds you control you." The border used to run the AU is given by the EU. So AU is a sub-organ of the EU in another continent.
Okay.
Israel has an observatory seat in AU. I don't know the country that even is a member of the EU. Now, when you put all this together, you realize that we just have a change of name, but another organization represented by another personalities. That's the reason why, if you look at it critically, the AU that existed in 1963 is not the AU that has been existing this time around. What we had OAU, that was the very first OAU that helped South Africa fought apartheid. It was the OAU that equally brokered a peace between the rebels of Rwanda, Kagame, with Juvenal Habyarimana in the Arusha Accord in Tanzania. That was the AU that was able to intervene and solve problems. What is this AU doing? AU that is being ordered to sack an AU ambassador to the US. That is not something we can even talk about. Can you tell me any problem that the AU has solved?
Okay, Julius Chofo thinks that you are mixing up some few things. First of all, he says that he's sure that when we say that people just want peace, we are talking about the end to the crisis. Can any conflict end without some kind of negotiated solution? Secondly, when people talk about justice before peace, they are not talking about justice for the victims against perpetrators. They are talking about a just solution to the root causes of the crisis.
Julius Chofo, you said when we talk about peace, not so, it's not talking about, there's not peace without any mediated solution. That's why I'm telling that you are putting the horse before the cart. We need to be at peace before we talk.
Okay.
We must be at peace. If Leo offends me and I don't want to see Leo, we are not at peace. If we accept,
we will never sit on the table. Yeah.
Yes, we will never sit. If you and I agree to meet, it means we have not buried our hatchet. But now we have to point out some realities. You took away my land before we had this misunderstanding. Okay, you are not going to take away the 500 square meter. We have now come to settle this thing. We don't want problem anymore. You give me 250 and take 250. It was on the premise, on the platform of peace, that you and I were able to do what? To negotiate. You cannot negotiate if peace has not gone ahead. I have to send a peace plan to you. You come, we sit on the table. We can't sit on the table as demons or enemies. Yes, we must be sincere to tell ourselves the truth after we accept to sit first on the table. It is now after that peace agreement that we'll now go on a negotiation. That is what we are trying to say here. Number two, when they say talking of justice to find out the root cause of the problem. Listen, if we want to start stepping into historical facts, we may end up saying some things that we are not supposed to say. This is a media platform, and so many people are watching us. It is important for us to understand that if we want to go and trace the root cause from 1961 to 1972 to 1979 to 1982, before we are where we are today, a lot of mix-up is along the line. Because you cannot say our fathers were 100% also smart. They played their own foolery along the line. So let's not go there. I'm asking that Foncha is dead. Estimona is dead. Most of those men are dead. You and I, Julius Chefo, we are the one in this generation. Should we sit and allow everyone to die because Foncha or Aiju made a mistake? That's the question I should be asking you. What is the present day solution to the present day problem? Must we hold on to the errors of what Fonchas and the Aijus did? Because Aiju was not right. Foncha too was not right. So these children in this generation, why don't we look for a solution now to solve what will help our children and the ones coming in the future? And you want us to hold on to the errors of those who made mistakes of yesterday. It doesn't augur well.
Yes, it doesn't augur well. Now, we are talking about fixing, going back to the root causes for some. The government will say territorial integrity of Cameroon is primordial. Lots of things have happened already between the people of the English speaking, and so we prefer to rather make gains than fixing. What do you see people working on a plan B, or is it die and take on?
You and I know that in everything in life there must be plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D.
Yeah, but do you see this being manifested in the way we go about this?
It is not. And that is why I think most of us from the English-speaking region of the country, we failed. We failed because it looks like plan A, if plan A does not work, everyone has to die because plan A did not work. You see, there are many ways to catch a rat. You see, what you are looking for, you might not get it immediately. You may get it through another means. I think if at all we were agitating for secession and we could not get it, there's supposed to be a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. You may get that plan B, and the plan B serves as an entrance through which you will get back your plan A. I read a story in a book of a man that intended to achieve something. He wanted to get a girl from a community. He tried getting the girl through war. He couldn't get the girl. He decided to come in that community as a subject and worked hard in that community, became the richest person, and that's how he got the girl. He fought, he couldn't get the girl. He came to the community as a subject, but worked hard now and became the richest person, and he was left with no choice than to get that girl. He got the girl not with the first option. He got the girl with the second option. One of the things I believe we failed as Anglophones is that we had a plan B, a plan A. There was no plan B, there was no plan C, there was no plan D. So it looks like anybody who is come with an initiative of a plan B is considered an enemy to the plan A. For instance, a federalist will not tell you they want separation, but he wants separation through federalism. A confederationist will not tell you they want secession, but they want some level of secession through confederation. Now, if somebody comes up that he is a federalist, you have the plan A of secession, you see him as an enemy. You and that person may be fighting the same cause, but coming from two different angles. That's the truth. Someone says he believes in special status. He could be fighting the same thing with you, but come from another angle. I think the problem we have is some people have monopolized the crisis to the extent that they believe only their philosophy stands out from any other person. There is no Anglophone in this country that you will meet and ask, even those who are in the government, that will not tell you at some point they'll be marginalized. No one. But the truth is, we have different approaches attacking the same problem. Why should my approach become a crime because I do not comply with your approach? Why should I be considered a blackleg or you kill me because I refuse to accept your philosophy? I think in a successful democratic society, you convince men to accept your philosophy. You don't kill men to accept your philosophy. You don't impose, you don't maim people to accept your philosophy. You convince people. That's politics, competitive politics. I was in Abuja. Atiku was in Kogi State, and he said he's going to revamp a dam that had died there. Now APC came to government and never spoke about the dam. That's community politics, convincing the people to accept your philosophy. So what I think we lack amongst us as Anglophones, which we're supposed to have as a common front, is that whether it is Kum bringing liberation, or Apostle Ambe bringing liberation, or Mr. Chofo bringing liberation, the most important thing is that somebody at last is bringing liberation to us. But now it looks like a particular individual must be the person bringing that liberation. A particular group of people must be the one bringing the liberation. If John Frundi won the 92 elections, he would have brought liberation to Anglophones in another way. That would have been also liberation. Why must it be that only the people whom we think are the sole messiahs to bring liberation have been destined to do that? I sitting here, I can bring liberation to Southern Cameroonians, not through secession. So learn to accept the fact that what we need at the end of the day is what? Liberation. It doesn't matter from who it comes from. If somebody wins election tomorrow in Southern Cameroon and choose to give 10-state federation, he has brought liberation to some extent. What you have in your hand is more important than what you are anticipating for. So I think we should come to a place where everybody should be given the opportunity to fight and bring this so much desired liberation that almost everybody is agitating for. Give people the opportunity. Don't think that that liberation must come only through one particular source.
Okay.
God was to take the Israelites to Canaan land. It was a 4 days journey, but he took them through a path for 40 days.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Bombay, protest writing from Douala Bekoko. I wish to affirm with Apostle Ambe on his view that this crisis has jeopardized the destiny of so many Cameroonians, indigents, and indeed it has tremendously jeopardized the interests of this country as a whole, even though some people take it for aggrandizement. But by the grace of God, we hope one day this Cameroon and its children will soon cease from being belligerents. Okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu. We really need peace. Apostle is really speaking the truth. God bless him. Leslie is writing from Manfe. Good evening to all in the panel. Why is it that all the Anglophones are so hypocrites, even in reality? Tell the so-called apostle to speak reality. Okay, I don't know what reality you want him to speak. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the apostle. To me, peace and love begins at home. If we truly want peace in our country, let us begin by loving one another in our own country regions. Let us use love and compassion, not use bullets and guns to overcome problems. Like one reggae artist in Cameroon said, we want our children to go to school in an environment of peace, love, and hope. So dialogue is the only way out. Thanks. Juden's writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. A part on Apostle Ambe's back for the analysis he has made. Let those diasporas learn from Apostle Ambe. Is Johnson writing from Bafusam. Good evening, Mr. Liu. We need peace. We are dying of hunger. Hans is writing from Bermuda. Greetings in the studio, briefly saying, if it is impossible to acquire peace, why don't we fight for justice? We are suffering now today is because of the bad, but we are sleeping on fix by those, our old men of yesterday. Cameroonians are good talkers, not good doers. Okay. Yes, some persons really think that if we were to go back to the past, we are automatically going to fix our problems and then everything is going to. How feasible is this? Because this is also the impression of many persons that the justice is that once this thing is repaired, everything is going to be done with.
Mr. Leo, there are a few things I want to point out here. I don't know if I'm going to offend some people. The people who started this crisis from 1961, I'm sure they were very, 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 very comfortable when there was a federal system of government. And I wish to ask, was there any gunshot for this system to change from the federal system to unitary system? There was no gunshot. When we shifted from the United Republic of Cameroon and we entered the Republic of Cameroon, was there any gunshot? What were these people doing? Were they dead? Did they run mad? That before their very eyes, they shifted from federation to unitary system without any gunshot. Because I was thinking that there was supposed to be some exchange of bullets and fighting. They say, no, we don't want federation. They said they want unitary, and then they fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. It passed like that. They shifted from United Republic of Cameroon and they entered Republic of Cameroon. There was no gunshot, there was no fighting, there was nothing. And we entered like that. From federation to United Republic of Cameroon to Republic of Cameroon, all this transition took place before the eyes of Anglophones, before the eyes of the leaders, before the eyes of those who negotiated. There was no gun. Now, we want to go back to where we come from, and we want to take gun and go back to where we come from. Where we came from to where we are, no gun was shot. We want to take gun and go back to where we came from. How do I explain that? 3 different transitions from federation to United Republic, from United Republic to the Republic of Cameroon. 3 different transitions, no gunshot, no war, no crisis, nobody was killed. Then now we are in 2023. We want to go back to 1961, which was federation, and then equally at secession. We now want to use gun to go back there. This economy was not as strong as it was in 1961. It was not, the military was not as strong as it is right now in 1972. It was not strong as it is right now in 1982. Now that the economy has grown to this level, with this level of military and this strength, with the international relations that it now has, we want to use gun to go back to 1961, to 1972, to 1984 or 85. How feasible is that? I think what we should be agitating right now is the privilege to have the right that will make us enjoy this country like any other country, like any other citizen in this country. So I don't know how, by going back to that 1961, if we want to judge it.
But let's even think about a possibility. How does that automatically fix all of our problems? Are we going to live in a heaven-like society? I want to see one that exists.
Did we ever live in a heaven-like society in 1961? Because we have once lived there. 1961 is not 2050 that we are still to reach there. It's a place we once lived in. And if that 1961 was that comfortable, why did we go to 1972? Because the greatest challenge we have is the Fumban Conference that we did not vote in agreement to join. It was a yes or a we. What was the purpose of that conference? Was it not to deliberate on the issue of reunification? We have lived in 1961. We have lived in 1972. We want to go back to 1961 and live again. In that 1961, what was the system of government? It was federation. So if we are going to find out the root cause of the problem in 1961, and we want to bring back 1961, we should be agitating for federation, not secession, because in 1961 there was no secession.
Yeah, many persons will tell you that we got independence on the 1st of October, 1961.
We got independence by joining. Independence by joining. That's the independence now. We got independence by joining. That was the clause. As a UN trust territory, that was the clause. You get independence by joining. And now we joined and became a federal system. So if we are going back to fight the 1961, I think the highest we can fight for is federation.
Okay, that is we can fight for is federation.
It's federation.
Yes, but many persons who just joined would want to get your reaction to the announcement by government saying that they did not mandate anybody to speak on its behalf or to engage in negotiations. You already said that day, the day you got that was on the 23rd of January 2022. Yes. You said you were sad.
Very, very sad, disappointed, broken, because I was excited that finally, at least, these two rigid individuals who have refused to ever sit and talk, look at the face of each other, and bring the masses out of this dilemma, have finally dropped down their pride, their ego, to sit and talk with each other, only to come up and then suddenly hear that the Minister of Communication has sent out the communique debunking the fact that they never had any negotiation plans with the Southern Cameroonians through a Canadian-led dialogue. I mean, I moved around, asked a few Anglophones how they felt. Everyone was broken. So I mean, say, where me this thing end quick, me peace come. Now me, they don't come for Douala, I leave my farm for Mamenda. My chop don't rotting off for bush. I say, Mami, you are not one independent again. Me they give one independent. Mami say, we not one independent. What you want another peace from that old woman who is in my neighborhood. I could feel the cry of 1,000 other Anglophones. So these peace talks, I knew Canada would not just come and say, pack your things and go back home and live in peace. There was supposed to be some negotiations. Even if they were not giving all what they wanted, they would have at least bargained to some extent to arrive at a point where everyone will go home satisfied. That was my joy. At least somebody has come in between these two persons to broker peace. But my disappointment came when I heard the information came out again. I said, so finally we still have a long journey to cover as far as this crisis is concerned. What frustration, what disappointment, what kind of pain and torture are we still to go through again? Haven't we gone through enough? According to the theory of numerology, 7 is perfection. I'm sure this is the 7th year of the crisis. Why is this crisis not completed? Why is it not finished? Why can God not just perfect things that this year everything rounds up as far as the crisis is concerned? Because the casualties are untold. The pain is too much. The frustration, the disappointment. I mean, we don't want to start naming all the other things that have taken place. On both sides. On both sides. There's a widow in my neighborhood there whose husband was a policeman who was killed. Come and see how the children are groping in darkness and frustration. It's also the consequences of the crisis. It's not just on one side. All those military men who lost their lives, they are people's children. Husband to women. Father to children. So I think it's something that we have to look into. I think the government should give peace a chance. Let these Canadians come in and see how they can be able to settle this matter. Since on the other side, a few groups have accepted also, I think if they negotiate, the rest of the groups that refuse to comply, then they will be left to face the entire population. Because that's the truth.
Okay, they will be left to face the entire population. That is the situation Canada maintains, because even after this communique on the 23rd of January, on the 24th, Canada came out and still maintained that there are still contacts, and that effectively talks held between them and representatives of the government of Cameroon.
I'm not surprised.
Yes, but what should be the strategy henceforth?
I think the Canadian government has to keep pressing.
Okay.
Yes, because from my findings, other countries applauded the Canada initiative, which means a lot of countries were looking for somebody that will stand up and face the challenge. And since Canada came up to face this challenge, I think a lot of countries applauded them. And I think many countries now are looking up to Cameroon, and they will want to really know actually who is the person denying peace. So I think the Cameroon government also should tread with caution, because the international community is not focusing on this nation, considering the fact that Canada, being a voice in the world, has equally reason to see how they can resolve this problem. And if at all the government outright denies going on negotiation table, I think the international community will know who has been denying peace talks from the very onset. And to me, I'm not surprised, because discussions will be underway and they are still talking from the background. Maybe the information about the Canadian embassy, the Canadian government came up too fast. Maybe they are still to negotiate, but I think the Cameroon government will finally comply, because this is exactly what happened during the case of Gowon and Ojukwu in Ghana. When they met in Aburi in Ghana, they had the Aburi Accord, they spoke. Everyone knew everything was okay until Ojukwu came back and instead started fighting. What he complied was not what he did. It's the same thing with Hitler discussing with Chamberlain and the rest in the Versailles Peace Treaty, only for him to come back and militarize the Rhineland and then started proceeding. So negotiations have never been that smooth all the way. So me, I'm not surprised with that thing, for the fact that the Canadian government came up and publicly announced that discussions are going underway. I'm very, very convinced that it could be some distractions that normally take place with negotiations along the line. But I think finally things will finally settle. Let's keep praying and trusting God that the Cameroon government will finally come up to say they have finally adhered to the demands of the Canadian government, sitting on the same table with the separatists to talk as a family and see how they can put this dilemma and put all this trouble to an end. Because as a matter of fact, all those guys who are even going to sit on the table are not feeling the pinch as compared to those who are on ground. It is very important for us to go on the field and see how people feel, what they are going through, and the torture they go through. They'll be able to explain to you how difficult the ground is as compared to those who are sitting in their porch cars and comfortable houses in different places and then just blowing very, 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 very big grammar on the internet.
Okay, it's very, very important. But now, some persons think that there are camps within the government itself. Do you think that these camps will need to reconcile their notes and see how to go further? But on the camp of the separatists also, don't you think that their attitude may have provoked government, because already they were sounding songs of victory? And the state would say, okay, how do I go to talk when this guy say,
I think the government is mature enough not to be carried by the, how do I put it, the exuberance.
But we are talking about getting into negotiations,
of course,
dialogue.
Of course.
Canada says, I want to. When you read from both sides, do you see any preparation, any preparedness? Did you see the hiring of experts in the domain of communication so that what goes out there is scrutinized? Do you see the hiring of experts in negotiations and dialogue, or the normal persons who have been doing everything were still the same persons?
Mr. Alio, I think at the level we are right now, if we want to follow maturity, it's not now we are going to see maturity. We have been seeing a lot of immaturity along the line. It's not today we are going to see maturity. What I think should be primordial is the concern for peace and reconciliation, irrespective of how people behave along the line, because they are not going to be mature today as they have been always. They are not more mature. They have been acting weird and then somehow complicated in the past. So we don't expect them to suddenly, within the flash of light, develop maturity and start talking. There are a lot of persons also who have come online to brag and boast that they will say, no, she don't, they don't find out she don't. They say they cannot sit with terrorists, they're not sitting with terrorists. Will you follow all those cheap talks on social media and refuse to follow what is more important? Some of the people who are suffering are not even the ones writing those things. Yes. The people who are suffering are the people who are writing messages and sending here. These are the people who are on ground. They are feeling the pinch. Those who say, they say they will not talk with terrorists. What are they going to talk with terrorists? And then there are also persons on the other side who are also following the thing that the government should not be talking with terrorists. Government is talking with who? Government should not be talking with terrorists. Listen and listen. I've said it and I'm still repeating it. We should be mindful the way we use words on social media, on television. The kind of words you use can either fan aglow flames or quench flames. We have taken our mouth to pour foil on this particular crisis for too long. People come on television and call people terrorists, call them bandits, call them insult. You cannot be insulting somebody you want to reconcile with. A soft way of saying our disgruntled brothers from the northwest and the southwest. I am sure I have repeatedly cancelled most of the panelists that come on air not to throw fuel to an already ignited flame. So there are other persons also pro-government individuals say government cannot talk with terrorists. They are individual, they are idiots. And there are also anti-government agents who are also from the secessionist camp who keep saying that the government was saying they cannot talk with terrorists. Where are they? Will you follow all those cheap slangs and nonsense statements on social media from hoodlums who don't even understand the pains of those who are going through in the field? If you want to know who wants peace, go to the field and ask that man in Bui division, in Gotutunja, in Donga Mantung subdivision, in Boyo, ask them that particular question, that what do you want? They will tell they want peace. And they won't be ready to even insult neither the government or the separatists. They will want those parties to come on the table for the betterment of the society. Stop looking at those who sit behind the keyboard of their telephones and keep sending insults on air. They will say they no go fit talk with TV, so they don't can talk with TV. If you follow all the trend of all those social media rubbish, you will not be able to do something that will help the common man in the society. Our villages are getting rotten, our houses are dilapidated, roads are bad, there's no water, no school. I mean, the communities are getting frustrated every day, and somebody sits behind the keyboard of his phone, which is not even up to 200,000, and is sending trash on air. We just take it and then, no, it is not well on both sides. There are people who are speaking from the government angle who are frustrating this thing, that the government cannot talk with terrorists, the government cannot talk with this, and there are also people who are saying that the government say they will not talk to the terrorists. Government or separatists who are very, very conscious of the well-being of people in the society should not pay attention to all those trash on social media.
Good evening, Mr. Leo and Prophet Ambe. The no nation is perfect, but we cannot address grievances by picking up arms against the fatherland. These so-called leaders of the separatist movement are not role models. Most of them are not serious, okay? If these characters, I think they can negotiate with whoever in government, then right into the country like heroes. They should think again. Tamvu Mbonso writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Louis. I want to congratulate you guys in the studio. I want to appreciate Apostle Ambe for his points, because some leaders in the government know what to do to end the crisis. The government needs to acknowledge that there is a problem. The government needs to allow the other parties to express their minds. James is writing from Boya. We need sincere peace. James is also writing from Boya. Okay, Dr. Hansen Langmia says, good evening to you in the studio. I have been following you for the past few days, and I feel that I have to contribute. I happen to have been trained on negotiation and even sat on the table of negotiation in Switzerland for my organization. People are mistaking the role of a facilitator in a negotiation. You go to a negotiation with a list of things you want, but it is not everything you put on the table that will be accepted by the opposite party. The moderator does not decide or suggest anything, directions to the parties, okay? For issues you agree on, there is a work and monitoring plan for both parties. When there is a serious disagreement, and there will be many, and can lead to one party walking out, the moderator is the one to negotiate between the parties. Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. Please extend my greetings to Apostle. He's really speaking sense, but I want him to understand that no matter our efforts, the Cameroon government will never change his mind towards the reconciliation dialogue in Canada. They do not want to be exposed. Okay, thanks. Abdullahi writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Leo and Leonard Apostle. Okay, I thought, Apostle, there are many ways to catch a rat, and everyone needs to have a plan B. Our forefathers never picked up guns, and that was their plan A, while the new generation have come up with plan B by picking up arms. Okay, I'm not sure that is what Apostle when our forefathers did not go with us. 3 different transitions, no bullets. Yes, okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Is Roland writing from Moyuka, Yoke. I like your program. Keep it on. God will hear our cry one day. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Nice one from Apostle Ambe. Greet him for us, okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I want to congratulate you guys in the studio. I want to appreciate the man of God for his points, because some leaders in the government know what to do, but they don't do it, okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. All we want is peace, whether the dialogue is held in Canada or Cameroon. We just pray for God's intervention for peace to return. Melody is writing from Yaoundé. Thank you, man of God. Only God will see us through, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu, and greetings to Apostle Ambe. We are tired of this ongoing war in the northwest and southwest regions. Just today evening in town, guns shot everywhere and dead bodies spotted as the exchange was ongoing in Bamenda as the renewed church area. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to you, Apostle Ambe. Yes, we need peace, but before 2016, we had peace birth for 40 years, and the present peace has taken Cameroon 30 years back, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu. I want to really appreciate you all there in the studio for a job well done. Please, I want to let Apostle, that the time to blame or criticize persons are over. It's time to build, okay? Yes, Mr. Liu, part of the people who have not mandated anyone to talk on our behalf. Cameroonians, go get your voter's card and fight for your right. We are not in 1960 when people fight with weapons for independence. If you no play politics, politics will play you. Young Cameroonians, shine your eyes, okay? Sweden Voice is writing from Sweden. Apostle Ambe Valentine, yes, your spirit was dampened like that of many Cameroonians. What should follow after now? Civil society, the church, what should they be doing?
First and foremost, I think the Bible says the hearts of the kings belong to God. Those who are in authority, our responsibility is to pray for them. That's the first thing we have to do. We should pray for peace to reign, because God is the one that sits in the hearts of men and conduct them towards peace, negotiation. Secondly, I think Canada will never, I repeat, bring these two parties to divide this nation. They will never, because Canada cannot do what it has not practiced. Canada is a perfect example of what Cameroon looks like. Canada equally has had challenges of this nature before they finally came up with the Quebec status. It had difficulties, it had challenges until France had to intervene, and then to secure the place of the Francophones living in Canada, they came up now with the Quebec status that actually gave the French full right to have their say in Canada. And I think Canada, being a nation that has gone through what we are going through right now, they stand a better chance to fix this problem. And I don't think they will ever come to this country to separate this country. So if there's any secessionist thinking that Canada is coming like that to come and give them opportunity to separate, it's absolutely impossible. They will bring up the idea of quiet down the crisis and giving people the opportunity to live as brothers and sisters. That's the first thing. I think Canada should not give up. Should not give up. To achieve something is not that easy, but they should not give up. My primary objective is that they should sit on the table and negotiate, even if they are giving nothing, but they let the war come to an end. My problem is the war coming to an end, because to be sincere, war has never benefited any society. Never. Countries that have fought wars in the past have faced serious consequences in the future. That's the reason why we should not be wiser than Germany, that has totally sidelined itself from wars. Germany has picked up a great economy because they totally boycotted from everything that has to do with war. Japan, that suffered the Hiroshima and Nagasaki crash in 1945, equally boycotted from everything that has to do with war. That's it. Japan has now built its economy. So no economy grows through war. And I think it is very important for us to understand that the damages we have had right now, we are going to be rebuilding what we're supposed to have built or advance our economy. That's why I'm saying that when these transitions took place from 1961, 1972 to 1985, There was no gunshot. There was no war. There was no bullet. Check the economy at that time. It means what we had on ground, even though we had challenges, was far more better than what we have not taken guns now to fight and then even lost the one that those people built. The people did not fight, build the economy to a certain level. We will have fought. Where have we kept the economy right now? The economy has gone down more than what those people we thought were foolish. Because we thought Frontier were foolish to have accepted the reunification. They were foolish because they came and stood on the Mongo Bridge and said they're no longer comfortable with the way the nation is being run. They didn't pick gun. At that time, you were going to school. Your father was working in CDC. CDC was existing. Your father worked in Pamo. And most of us going to school today, our parents thought to work in those plantations to send us to school. Education was cheap by then. You could stay in your village freely. Now, these people agitated for this same thing, didn't pick gun. Now you pick gun. We can't go to school. We can't stay again in the village. Children cannot even stay. The CDC that we had is no longer existing. The Pamo that sent most of us to school is no longer existing. So compare and contrast those who went through the crisis for all these years with us who have carried gun. What is the outcome?
Okay.
Our parents, we didn't bury anybody. People were growing old and dying at 70, 80. This time around, we are burying 15, 17, 19-year-old. We do mass burial in graves. Let us compare and contrast the two dispensations. We'll be able to advise ourselves on what to do.
Since after the World Cup, I've been giving my contributions. However, it has never been broadcast. It's obvious that my contributions are irrelevant. Okay, we'll extend my regards to Apostle Ambe. He has a good sense of judgment. So many persons are writing and claiming that I may not want to read their message. Please, I have nothing against you. It's just that it is very, very difficult for me to read all the messages. They come in so many tones, and I can just read those that I can. Now, Apostle Ambe Valentine, you are enumerating the situation as it is on the ground.
Yes.
And some persons will think that we need to sacrifice more to gain more, that after this, okay, things are going to turn around. Is that going to be the situation? And many more will tell you that we will fight till the last man's time.
When you talk about sacrificing, what is there to sacrifice again? You should be able to tell me if there's something to sacrifice again.
Maybe lives. Maybe lives.
How many lives are left to sacrifice? How much money is left to sacrifice? How much property is left to sacrifice? I think if we used to have 50 houses in southern Cameroon, we have sacrificed 40. If 50 couldn't win, is it the remaining 10 that will win? That's the problem. If we used to have 10,000 young men that will fight for us, if we have lost 8,000, if the 10,000 could not win, is it 2,000 that will win? If we used to have an account of $200 million, and now we have $20 million, if $200 million could not win, is it 20 million that will win? If we used to have 220 guns, and we could not win, is it now we have 20 guns that will win? If we used to occupy Boya, Munya, Muyoka, Ekona, Kumba, Etam, Ekondo, Titi, Mbonge, and we could not win, Bayi Koke, we could not win. We used to occupy Bui, Donga Mantong, Boyo, Mezam, we could not win. Is it now that we are only around Bui? Is it now that we are only around Meme? Why did we not win or occupy all those places? It's common sense, as simple as ABC. We have to strategize and think of what next to do, which is a plan B. We had more soldiers, we had more weapons, we had more supporters in the past. Southern Cameroonians.
Okay.
That's, I put it that way.
Okay, you had soldiers.
More soldiers, Southern Cameroonians, who were fighting the crisis. I'm using a generic term. I'm not trying to address individuals. Okay. Now, putting it now on a scale, we don't have soldiers in those places anymore. We don't have those guns anymore. We had more support from people who sponsored from here and there. We don't have those support anymore. If at all we had all those support with that crowd and those guns and the people, and we occupied all of those places, because sometimes I hear that it has occurred in Munya, is in Buya, Bons, Ekona, Muyoka, Kumba, Etam, Bayi Koke, Bayi Grass, Malende, Yoke, Munyenge, Bakakakakaka. But this time around, you can spot the places where guns are. You used to see
Bamenda,
2,000 soldiers.
When the person say Bamenda has become very insecure, but yeah.
You used to have 2,000 soldiers at the blow. This time around, you cannot count up to 500 at a spot. If with all those opportunities, number of soldiers, guns, and supporters, we couldn't achieve what we're looking for, is it now that we have people spotted here and there that we are going to win? These are some of the things that if you are sincere to yourself, ask yourself these questions and think of what next to do. I'm an analyst, and I will just be telling you straight the way it is. Because I've not come here to either take side for government or take side for the separatists. I'm not here for that. I'm here to help Cameroonians and to help my people from the English extract of the country, English-speaking extract of the country. So I think it is common sense for us to sit down. You say, he that wants to build a house, Proverbs 14:20, Luke 14:28, let him sit down and count the cost if he's able to win. Or if a king wants to go to war, let him sit down and count the cost if he's able to win that war. If he cannot, let him not dare. It's the holy book that says so. Luke 14:28. Even in war, you are asked to take a stock before you go to war. How can you be fighting a war without taking stock? That's why I'm giving this talk, this analysis. That when we were in 2016, 2017, you could see videos of at least 5,000 soldiers in Kupe Manenguba, 10,000 soldiers in Lebi Alem, 15,000 soldiers in Bui. But do we have those videos anymore? The major heads in all those associations, those groups, we had them dying one after the other, and their bodies were displayed publicly. Does that not tell us that we are engaging in some battle that we thought we could make it? But if it is not going the way we expect, let us retreat, and then have a rethink of what we intend to do.
Yeah, but the momentum, from what you are saying, is different, especially from the diaspora, that many persons will not buy into the rhetoric you just shared here.
It's not a rhetoric. Point of correction, Mr. Liu, it's a fact and it's a reality on ground. I think they should leave that place called abroad and come here and take a taxi to Munya and stop. Go to Ikunya and stop. Go to Muyuka and stop. And come out with these facts. They will advise themselves on what next to do. Okay. Let us not sit and begin to do rocket science in our rooms by deceiving the vulnerable masses. I think it's our responsibility to tell our people. It is not a disgrace to surrender. It is not. Sometimes you don't win by winning. You win by surrendering. If you think I'm lying, ask Philip Effiong and Ojukwu Odumegwu Emeka of Nigeria, who fought the Biafra from 1967 to 1970. Sometimes you win by surrendering. If they think I'm lying, they should ask the Tami Tigers that fought in Sri Lanka from 1983 to 2006 for 29 years. Sometimes you don't win by winning, you win by surrendering. But Mali say, he who fights and run away will live to fight again another day. Sometimes you fight and you run away. Even Elijah, who commanded fire from heaven that came down, ran away from the Jezebel, the queen, who was a witch. So sometimes it's good for us to advise ourselves on issues.
Mr. Liu, we thank God that we now know our history as Anglophones. Our fathers hid it from us, but we pray for peace. Stephen is writing from Gabon. Please greet Apostle for me. Kudos to Apostle Ambe. The Anglophones should always ask him for advice. Zaki Wanji, writing from the United States of America. Okay, I hope that they're going to write to you, Apostle. Good evening, Mr. Liu, Apostle and Apostle Ambe. Who would thought that they was going to debunk the Canadian goodwill on flimsy excuses? The government is so intransigent. The much anticipated dialogue is now looked upon as a mere heap of garbage by some unscrupulous officials. Okay, Ngole Stanley is writing from Tombe. Good evening. I'm happy now. At least I feel important after. Okay, I've read your message. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The problem here is pride, and it is this pride that has brought us to where we are today. Let Cameroonians have goodwill who can do something, drop their pride and go to the table. Let's talk out this crisis. We need peace, okay? Thank you, man of God. The heart of kings is in the hands of God. Let our leaders allow their hearts to be controlled by God, because only God owns everything, even with the gun. God loves you and the person you are killing. Paul Ngam, writing from Laikom. Okay, good evening to you, Paul Ngam. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Total peace is what we need for. We have suffered a lot. Bokwezak is writing from Mabanda, Kumba 3. Hello, Mr. Kum. We want a peace. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please, the government should do something to negotiate with the separatists. We have suffered enough. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Apostle, good evening. Please, when you talk about people wanting peace, to me it makes no sense. That is because they feel intimidated. What we need now is a lasting solution which will guarantee that the same problem will not come up again. When you want to quench a fire, do it well. Don't cool it, because it will spring up again. Great is writing from Bomenda. Now, when people are writing that they want lasting peace, we must solve the problem to the extent that we will never face it again. Don't know how should we fix the problem in Cameroon so that tomorrow we no longer face it.
Mr. Leo, peace is a process. Till today, peace is still going on in South Sudan. Till today, peace is still going on in Sierra Leone. Till today, peace is still going on in Liberia. Till today, peace is still going on in South Africa. Till today, peace is still going on in Rwanda. This magical peace we want in Cameroon, that looks like a switch connected to a bulb that you have to let it crack, it goes off, is absolutely impossible. Peace is in stages. Before Mandela could come to a place of being elected, negotiations started right at the Robben Island in prison. From there, they brought him to the camp of the whites. They started talking with him from there, negotiating with him from there, negotiating with him from there. When Mandela came and announced that they wanted reconciliation, peace for the white and black to live together, it wasn't easy. Winnie Mandela formed a party against Mandela to fight the idea that they don't want to do anything, because they were extremists also who held the position that they don't want to see any white man again in South Africa. Just like today, there are people who are also holding on to the fact that they don't want any form of federalism, they want outright separation. You see, but Mandela was able to contain all those people as a matter of time. Time gave opportunity for such healing to take place. I can tell the individuals today that are holding on total separation, which if at all peace talks are held and then probably federation is given, they will realize that as the days are going by, they may end up dropping the secessionist mentality. But to want an automatic peace is an error of the millennium. There is no peace that comes automatic. That is what we are yet to find on earth. And this is what our people want. They want an automatic peace. Automatic peace does not exist, because peace is a process. Let us start from somewhere. I think gradually as the days are going by, we're going to be mending the situation. For instance, you may ask for something, they give you, when you taste the one they have given you, you may not even want the next thing. So why don't we first of all accept what is given to us? We taste it. And then probably we may say, okay, at least at this level, I now feel important.
Yeah, but where exactly have we had a situation where let's take the case of apartheid. The blacks wanted power. Power was given to them.
Yes.
Many would have imagined that, okay, it will be that complete switch.
Yes.
The case in Zimbabwe, Mugabe took over and then even took over the lands from the whites.
Yes.
Yeah.
But where they are today, Emerson Mnangagwa has given the land back to the whites. When Mandela came, he took political power. That's why Malema has today the EFCC, Economic Freedom Fighters. That's Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF. You understand? Which means the peace that came to South Africa did not come with a full package. I don't know if our brothers are studying these international relations or they don't seem to understand. Peace that brought years of killings in South Africa did not come with a full package. There is still the white minority The whites are the minority, yet they have the most fertile lands and the largest land in South Africa, which means upon the 27 years that Mandela spent in prison, the peace that came did not come with a full package. It came with political independence, not economic independence. If at all it came with economic independence, then Malema will not be fighting for the economy today on behalf of the South Africans. So I'm still to see the community that got full package as a whole. That is a problem.
Okay.
Yes, let us learn from other communities.
Good evening, Mr. Lo. We can't just have peace without love, because the Bible makes us to understand that we should forget about the past and errors we made and think about what God Almighty has for us. In the days ahead, we should love our brothers and sisters as Christ loves us. That's the only way, because I think...
if Mandela was to hold on to political and economic emancipation, then there wouldn't have been any peace in South Africa. He accepted political emancipation but still abandoned economic emancipation. They did not negotiate on that. If at all he held on to that, then apartheid would have continued till date. This idea of all wanting everything in one package is the undoing of many of us from the southern Cameroons. I repeat, let us take this statement I'm making very serious. We have celebrated Mandela to have spent 27 years in prison. We celebrated him among the rebellions in Africa, but he negotiated the freedom of the blacks from the hands of the white in South Africa on an economic emancipation. I mean, in political emancipation, not economic. So there is no peace negotiation that comes with a full package. All of you will sit and say everything must be given at the same time. You are making the error of the millennium. Till today, South Africa does not have economic emancipation. If it were, or if there was an economic emancipation, then Malema will not start economic freedom fighter, because why? Till date, the rich lands in South Africa, the juicy position in South Africa, the financial stability is in the hand of the white minority. Please,
but
I am sounding this.
You are talking based on negotiations. Negotiations has to do with a giving and taking.
Yes,
we must make a compromise, like what.
That is what I'm talking here.
Yeah, but if we must have full independence as we want, what is the option?
What independence? Full independence?
Yes, like many persons would say, okay, independence or nothing.
Mr. Liu, what the South Africans were looking for was for the whites to leave their land completely. That's what they were fighting for. They died for. They were killed for. Properties were destroyed for. But when they realized after 27 years they couldn't produce any result, they now opt for something that was offered them. The whites said, we're going to give you political independence, but we're going to hold economic independence. That's the negotiation. People have died for almost about 7 years now. The government is giving something.
Yeah, but it's the case of South Sudan. They fought till
the international community came, started negotiating, and then the parties in question accepted to sit down and share power. That's the same thing with Tsvangirai and Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. The power sharing was because they first and foremost accepted to sit down. These individuals are talking, they are not even willing to sit down.
I like your program. God bless you. And Apostle Ambe, thank you. Armstrong is writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and thanks for your program. Extend greetings to Apostle Ambe. He's talking sense, but should remember, you cannot make omelette without breaking eggs, okay? Joseph is writing from Bamenda. This one says, I was born a Cameroonian of the 1980s. I know no La République du Cameroun, no Amazonia. We want peace. C'est le vert ou jaune qui gagne. The number of stars on the red is the only issue to be decided upon. Long live Cameroon. Betek is writing from Kumba. This one says, Apostle, good evening. Please, when you talk about people wanting peace, to me, it makes no sense. That is because they feel intimidated. I'm sure I read this message already. I don't know. Apostle Ambe is thinking like me. We more and more people think so far, so for the crisis to end. Thanks. Subi is writing from Bamenda. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Greetings to the Apostle. I'm so glad this program is ongoing. Please keep up with. We need peace. We are tired of shooting every night. Cliff Ayuk is writing from where? These are the expressions of the people. I'm not making them up. Apostle, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. It's always a joy and a privilege to come educate Cameroonians and to help our people understand that we cannot keep on borrowing the soil when we are not reaping anything out of it.
We want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of the program. Thank you to Eli and also to Desmond, Tabby, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising the work we do out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Black n'est pas sombre, c'est brillant. Black est audacieux. Black, c'est la fusion de couleurs en une seule. C'est mon style, c'est ce style-là. Wow. Et ce style-là aussi. Black brille dans tout.
Yahweh